On this edition of the program, we talk about empathy, how the internet and the political world in general deals with our fellow man. Also, Trump rambled on television and rescheduled weed. It's all coming up.
The following is brought to you by Just Another Pilot.
Hello and welcome everybody to the Politics program for December 20th, 2025. Your old pal, Justin Robert Young, joining you. The majority of this episode is going to be a conversation with Brian Brushwood, the person that I have spent the most time talking about internet culture with, because I had some signals through the political world over the last several days about empathy. Donald Trump put out a really nasty truth social about Rob Reiner after he was brutally murdered by his son. And people recoiled a little bit. And then it, like it often does, becomes a finger-pointing game with, well, you did the thing with Charlie Kirk, and so we do a thing with Rob Reiner. Something in my head said that they were looking for empathy. That's what the complaints were about. Love, I don't get enough of it, was the cry from the populace. So I wanted to talk to Brian about it, and we're going to get to that in a second. And then in our update, we're going to talk about some crazy stuff here. Number one, Donald Trump did a thing that a lot of people have talked about for a very long time, and that is reschedule marijuana from a Schedule 1 drug to a Schedule 3 drug. That sounds dorky, but it does have a lot of downstream consequences, and it could be moving us to a world where legalization on a more federal level is something that, is looked at and understood. But before that, we begin with this. Donald Trump spoke on television last night for 18 minutes and 18 seconds. It was during the season finale of Survivor, so anybody who likes to outlast, outplay, and outwit, then you got a little Trump treat in the middle of it. And I have to apologize to people that subscribe to this show, because the bonus episode that we did before he did his announcement, the reports that were coming out were that he was going to be announcing a ground operation in Venezuela. Not the case. Nary a mention of Venezuela in the entire speech. Instead, it was a pretty rushed, very loud, yelling into the microphone, reset of affordability, wherein he wanted to point out exactly how bad of a situation that he inherited and where he believes he has done a good job. So let's start with the premise of this. Why is Donald Trump going on national television and resetting his argument on affordability? Because he's underwater in terms of the economy. That's why. He's like 15 points down on the economy. That used to be his superpower. That is in a large reason why he is president again, is because people were very sick of Joe Biden's handling of the economy, and they remembered a fond economy with Trump. He has so far not delivered what he has said, and many people believe that Donald Trump is making it worse by way of tariffs. So he's got two challenges. Number one, don't do what Joe Biden did and just say, trust me, the economy's great. Number two, explain tariffs. You got to explain, you got to put tariffs in a way that people understand why they're going to work for them. So I don't know whether or not he achieved the first part of that goal. which is don't tell people that everything's going great, because he largely told people that things are going great. He did a better job than he has done in the past, in my opinion, on explaining this as a continuum that, Obama did this best. When he was faced with a re-election and the economy wasn't great, it was a slow recovery, but it was recovering. His argument was, hey, when we got into office, the car was in the ditch. Yeah, it's taken a while. It's a dirty job. Doesn't go as fast as everybody wants to, but just as we're making progress out of the ditch, do you want to hand the keys back to the people that drove the car into the ditch in the first place? Great messaging. Resonated. Bought patience and time, because it gave permission for all the people that would be surrogates for him to talk about, hey, here are encouraging signs. Things are getting better. Instead of having to go with some Orwellian, everything's great now. Donald Trump got in. Sunshine pours through our windows and our national psyche should be immediately different. You've got to be able to tell a story, a compelling narrative that is one-on-one with reality, at least the reality of the voters. So he did a little bit of a better job of explaining a continuum. It still remains very rosy, but that's Donald Trump. He's a salesman. He's not going to, if he were a novelist, he would have a richer story to tell. He is a salesman, which means, what do I got to tell you right now to get you into this economy is great mindset? The tariffs he explained, in part of the way that he said it before, which is like, a lot of this is delayed gratification here, people. If I get commitments for people to build a factory, then they have to build the factory first. If I am looking to have a generational change in reshoring manufacturing, then we have to wait for people to actually want to do it. But tariffs are helping, tariffs are working, and because of tariffs, I am going to give everybody in the military $1,776, and the checks are already in the mail. There was some criticism of this on CNN today, that the money is coming from a program that was already earmarked for a housing stipend, which I think is if you want to get money to people immediately in the world of government, you don't set up a new program. You use an old program and then you just fund that old program through other money. It's a lot easier to do that than it is to set up a new program if you want to get military people money before Christmas, which, considering it is the 19th, you got to go pretty quick. That was the big news. That was the thing that hadn't been really pre-rolled, but it explained why, the tenor of what happened explained why you hadn't really seen a lot of like, here's what's going to happen, because what was going to happen was not, revolutionary. It was a very political 18 minutes, which everything with Donald Trump is political. Oh, the two good things that I thought that did come out of it from his point of view, if you were advancing the Trump perspective, are, number one, he really went after the insurance companies. Now, this is very much a perspective that I have heard from the House Republicans. They've attacked the ACA subsidies by saying this is just a giveaway to the insurance companies. If Donald Trump continues to go after health insurance companies, I do believe he will be politically rewarded. That's something that people like. They like it when he does stuff like that, because it demonstrates a willingness to break norms from a populist perspective. Will he? Can he? I don't know. I'm just saying that when he talks about that kind of stuff, that is good for him. Number two, the biggest political blunder that Donald Trump and the Republicans made was not giving a handle for the one big, beautiful bill that would explain a political message. This is a thing for a reason in DC. The Affordable Care Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, right? You have to give it a thing that people can repeat. Whether or not it's actually doing what it says on the tin, different story altogether. But the one big beautiful bill, which was basically just a Trumpism that I think did the most important thing for what it was intended to do at the time, which is remind everybody involved that this was Donald Trump's entire agenda. But it doesn't say tax cut. That's what it should have said. It should have been called the Tax Cut and Friends Act. What Republicans are banking on is that their sense of the economy is, or the American sense of the economy is going to turn around next year for two reasons. Number one, people are going to file taxes and they're going to see, at least working class people, populous people are going to see that they are saving money. They're saving money on overtime. They're saving money on tips. And seniors are saving money on Social Security. They believe that that will be something that is real world. Hey, I have this money now. I didn't have it before. That will benefit them. Trump spelled that out. And I think that's important. Now, the other thing that Republicans believe is that, they had a good inflation number this week. Wage growth has been higher than inflation recently. So, that's good. They hope that this kind of happens more and more and more, and that eventually you see a receding of the affordability crisis. But the tax thing's very important, and he has to do it. All that being said, this could have been an email. Wasn't a lot there that needed to be a national address. But considering I assumed it was going to be us going to war, well, Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. All right, let's get into our conversation with Mr. Brian Brushwood. I would like to welcome to the program a good friend of mine, my comedy partner on the Great Night podcast, Mr. Brian Brushwood.
Hello.
Of course, Modern Rogue, Scam Nation.
Yeah.
Now it's a nation.
Yeah. Well, it whatever it is, it's definitely a legally distinct property from Scam School.
School, yeah.
Which is the name of the channel on which Scam Nation continues to live.
There we go. I'm sure there's a reason for it. But I wanted to bring you on because I don't think that anybody has spent as much time with me talking about internet culture as you and I have in my life. And we're at a very weird moment in politics dealing with the feeling of empathy. And it really popped off at the beginning of the week with the brutal murder of Rob Reiner and his wife and the president of the United States, who obviously had a no mistake contentious relationship, a two-way contentious relationship with Rob Reiner, who is incredibly active politically and was not a shrinking violet in terms of making his opinion known. Wrote an unkind Truth Social ascribing his death to Trump derangement syndrome. And there was a big outrage, and even people on the right were like, oh, this is in bad taste. This lacks empathy, which, led to stuff about, okay, well, but what about all the people that were celebrating Charlie Kirk and everything? And that is not, I'm not here to litigate what's good and what's bad and whether or not people should have more empathy. What I found interesting is that there seemed to be a cry for more. Like people wanted more. I don't know if it is just about political point scoring of like, oh, yes, I want empathy when somebody that I care about died. Or if it is just kind of bubbling up that we are coming out of a very coarse age of discourse, and now we are thirsting for people to see more humanity in each other. And I wanted your thoughts on that.
I think an awful lot gets explained when you stop thinking in terms of individual characters and stop ascribing to a crowd a single individual character's characteristics, by which I mean a multicellular organism of a crowd is going to always, just like water always goes downhill or whatever, there's predictable rules it's going to do to fill the void. And if in the case of the Charlie Kirk assassination, let's say 70% of everyone who said something terrible, regrettable, unempathetic, held their tongue. Subjectively, everyone's timelines would look exactly the same because the 30% of the parallel beast that is the crowd would they would just become amplified. And let's say 70% of them held their tongue. It would still, your feeds would look exactly the same because that is the nature of the multicellular organism of crowds. And it creates these horrific artifacts. And if there is, when a massively parallel audience sees a thing, if there's a gap, if somebody, let's say we made a joke early on in our comedy podcast, there was some moment where I didn't notice it and 90% of the audience didn't notice it, but there's a little dribble with a little post-nasal drip. And then of course, because it happened, the massively parallel organism of the crowd identified it, highlighted it, made it a thing. Because it existed, it became part of the story, and there was no stopping that. Likewise, with the Charlie Kirk assassination, whatever the sentiments were, no matter what percentage would hold their tongue, the sentiment, the resentment, whatever darkness existed, and as a result, enough cells show up, and it's like an infection. In the case of Trump, though, that is a single person. And a single person so Republicans respond with horror to the Democrat, the left, whatever their bugaboo is, as though it's a single person. But I think that's a fundamental misunderstanding, is that the left, who is saying nasty things about Charlie Kirk, is not a single person. It is a different beast altogether. It is alien from the person, Donald Trump, who responded equally unempathetically in there. And as a result, I suspect very few people have thought about how fundamentally different the two are. People are drawing false parallels between the two, and there are no false parallels any more than there's a parallel between an amoeba's reaction to a thing and my daughter's.
You know, I almost, don't want to get into the realm of parsing kind of like, well, what is worse or what is, I think you are right in the frame of reference of like, our algorithmic world will surface the worst thing that is said by somebody. It is very easy to surface it if it's the president of the United States who says something. And even the truth was weird. Mostly, I think people were reacting to the timing, that there couldn't just be a very sad to hear about Rob Reiner. That wasn't the thing. Instead, that was written also in the middle. It was like a very sad night in Hollywood. Like, okay, that's fine. Like Rob Reiner and his wife have passed away. Oh, look at that. He died because of TDS, Trump derangement syndrome. Then it's like, oh, that's bad. You shouldn't you shouldn't say that he died.
Did I see right that there's a presidential Hall of Fame with some fairly unkind plaques?
Yes.
Walk me through that part. Help me, and especially for the uninitiated, know about what I saw.
Well, all right. So this does get into, I do want to keep it on the idea of empathy, but this does.
Well, but this is part of it. This is another aspect. This is performative. This is, as I think of it, speaking the secret language of once I learned that Broca's area, the part that handles all our language, is just a teeny tiny little chunk of the brain, not even on the dominant hemisphere, I stopped thinking in terms of we communicate with words. And then also we shouldn't believe words. Words may or may not be congruent with what the real message is, but the real message is often in performative things like the Presidential Hall of Fame.
So there is a part of the White House, an outdoor part of the White House that they have installed portraits of all the presidents, seemingly only as a prelude initially to have Trump there twice, right? And to have in between him not a portrait of Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., but rather Joe Biden's auto pen.
Yes.
Then they decided that they were going to add plaques describing each president.
Very expensive, fancy plaques.
And the plaque for Obama, it was so much that they had to use 2 plaques.
Yeah, that's right.
And it is unkind to the legacy of Barack Obama. It is very much written in the tone of a Trump Truth Social. Now, how much does this matter? I don't know. I don't even know, to be totally honest, whether or not this was a Donald Trump idea or it's just somebody in his office that knows, like, boy, are we going to trigger the libs today because of what we do. There is, without a doubt, an element of this administration that is online native in a way that no other administration has been. And you see it in a few different ways. Not only do you have the trolling, which is constant, and many, I think rightly, even on the right, are like, Jesus Christ, guys. Like, it's kind of, can we have a little bit of the adults in the room instead of just having the 4chan shit posters run the social media accounts? But then also on the idea that, like, they're kind of unmockable because they understand the fastest way to defang mockery is to embrace it. So you can make fat, memes of JD Vance, and JD Vance is going to dress up like that for Halloween, like he did, or change his, or post those memes when he's mocking his enemies or something like that. There was a picture of Marco Rubio, I think it might have been from the Vanity Fair, the pictures of him kind of like almost looking like exhausted, and he made it his profile picture today. So it's like, that is, to me, another kind of moment, a milestone in our culture where internet culture was almost definitionally about a secret place away from the mainstream. And now we have fully joined everything. Like politics are message board fights. Essentially YouTube drama is the way that we interact with the news. And when it comes to, from Trump's press perspective, or the idea of each of the people that are running the social media accounts, they're like, oh, our job is to stay on people's minds in the way that any social media manager's job is to stay on people's minds. How do we do that? Post things that one way or another are either going to get 1 million retweets because, oh, hell yeah, look, it's a video of ICE arrests, but it's to Sabrina Carpenter. Like, this is amazing, LOL. Or, I cannot believe they would sully Sabrina Carpenter with this ICE video. Whatever. It's getting engagement. It's getting traction. That social media manager is happy because that's the only currency that exists on the internet is attention, as you pointed out, because, actually we were talking about this on Great Night, which we recorded before this. Like, we live in a world where so much is happening, it's easy for stuff to disappear. It just kind of slips into the ether. What I don't know is, are we disgusted by the natural evolution of message boards, which often tend toward hostility, that we want a more empathetic age? Is that something that is coming, or like, is there a societal want for it?
So,
or is maybe the internet is the wrong place to ever look for humanity at all whatsoever, and like the message board will always be the message board, which will always be hostile and ugly?
I think that no matter how let's imagine the actual crowd of humans. Let's use Dunbar's number units of 150 for a crowd, right?
Yeah.
Let's say that in a previous era, let's say they were 80% unempathetic, but now they're at 40% unempathetic, right? So empathy has grown. That will not be reflected in your feed because the 40% who are still nasty are
they will just get more famous.
Exactly, right? And so that is that's a core structural problem. So whether or not we become more empathetic, it will not be reflected on the record, unfortunately. And our understanding
it might make other platforms that don't do that more popular. I guess that I would never expect for Facebook or Instagram or X or any of the places that we understand now to change. Those ships don't turn, right? History says they will only begin to decay, at which point they will get even more grabby and desperate for retention. And so they will dial up the worst things. Like they are not going to be stewards of our culture. But do we see a rise in somebody brought this up at a conference I was at, that we shouldn't refer to social media as social media. We should refer to it as influence media.
Okay.
Because we don't really keep up with our friends on these platforms anymore.
Well, and that tickles at where I've been thinking a lot about. I suspect that there's a strong craving, and unfortunately there's no scalable profit motive to make this happen. But I think artificial scarcity is going to be big in a big way, where instead of a social media outlet where you can reach millions or whatever, instead, it would be interesting. Imagine a social network where it caps out at 300 members per city, one in, one out. You can only be a citizen of one city at one time. Mm-hmm. So if you want to be in a social network with Silicon Valley insiders, then you must leave Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
And of course, you get into issues of multiple accounts and all that stuff. Yeah, there's probably some biometric way to solve a lot of that. But I think that the idea of giving things, this idea of all places came from Mike TV, who's talking about the reverse of Spotify. Spotify, because you can get every version of every song ever, it's like you don't really, it doesn't mean anything. And so he's building a network where you get one album, and if you want to take down that album, you can put up another album.
Yeah.
Or if you want to put a song in, you have to take a song out. I love this because then people can lament, and when they say, for example, I bristle when people say, I miss Scam School. And I'm like, what are you talking about? It hasn't gone anywhere.
You can watch it. Yeah.
You're literally talking to the show. I'm here. And of course, what they mean is I miss how I felt during that time, or I miss the vibe during that time, whatever. But the point is, I almost would prefer it actually being canceled and gone, so then I could say, I miss it too.
Yeah.
But it's not here. This is here now. But of course, we live in the zombie apocalypse of media, where everything just lives forever and ever and ever.
And so you would say that the antidote to that is scarcity. That we need a return to scarcity.
If what you want, so if the core problem is, no matter how the crowd's sentiment actually is, the depiction of the crowd's sentiment will always be the horrific caricature that we see.
You want to know
then the solution is reduce the crowd to where it's harder for those artifacts to grow. It's not possible at small enough units of scale.
This is your update, brought to you by TakePoliticsSeriously.com. It's where you go if you want to support this show. Get 2 bonus episodes each and every week. And every once in a while, I tell you that we're going to war with Venezuela, just as a real fun joke. Those were the reports, though, yesterday. I don't know who had the reports, but geez Louise. Let's get into some stories we didn't talk about with Brian. President Donald Trump signed an executive order directing the Justice Department to accelerate marijuana's reclassification from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3, a move that could mark the biggest federal shift on cannabis policy in decades. Marijuana would remain illegal for most users under federal law, but the change would ease restrictions on research and allow cannabis companies to claim tax deductions that were previously barred. The order also tasks Health and Human Services with expanding research and improving access to CBD products while urging Congress to revisit recent limits on hemp-derived THC. The administration frames the move as balancing medical access and public health and safety concerns. This has been a thing that's been on the wish list for marijuana advocates for a really long time. Schedule 1 is the most dangerous drugs that America believes could harm Americans. Heroin and stuff like that. Schedule 3 is a much lower class. Now, again, it is still federally illegal, but the downstream effects of this are largely for this, patchwork American system now, where we have some states where it's legal, but it's illegal federally, which is a mess. But now these companies can bank easier. They can claim, tax returns easier. And, I'll give you a weird example. So Nevada legalized weed. And as you might know, Las Vegas, Nevada, one of my favorite cities in America, they cater to the whims of whomever wants to do something fun, right? That is the point of that town. And so there are plenty of places in Vegas where you can go and buy weed. Some of them are even consumption lounges. But there are no weed stores and no consumption lounges in casinos. None in the casinos downtown. None in the casinos on the Strip. Why? Well, it's because the casinos really, really, really want to protect one thing, their gaming license. And while you can, squint and say, well, but it's legal statewide, the gaming license is controlled federally. So they don't want to get into any situation or invest money and time to do anything that could in any way damage their gaming license. That's it. That's the golden goose. If it's now Schedule 3, do you see somebody take a shot? I don't know. Like I mentioned, the other part of this is that the law to reopen the government also included a closing of the Massey loophole for for hemp-derived products. That is something that is a very big deal here in Texas, where weed is illegal, but you can buy consumable hemp that is psychoactive. It's weed, right? So a lot of things happening. If you are a weed advocate, this is like gigantic news. This is massive news. Senate leaders are close to a deal on a 5-bill minibus appropriations package that would fund roughly 85 to 90% of the federal government through fiscal year 2026, reducing the risk of a shutdown early next year. The package covers major departments including Defense, Labor, HHS, Education, Justice, Transportation, and HUD. Negotiations are focused on agreeing to votes on a limited set of amendments after Democrats pared back a larger list of demands. The House and President Trump would still need to approve the deal. Without action, parts of the government face shutdown deadlines starting in late January. There were thoughts that we were going to see another shutdown like we did in the fall. Does not appear to be the case. We are going to move on. I guess the Democrats, they fought and they won in the off year elections. One more story that I want to get out there. And I got something to say about this. New York Times reports, Ken Martin, the new head of the Democratic National Committee, is spiking the public release of the 2024 autopsy for why they lost the election, because he feels it would be too damaging to look in the past. I want to say this to Ken Martin. Are you dumb? Are you a dumb person? Are you a real dumb idiot? Because if you are not a dumb idiot, then why are you acting in the way that a dumb idiot would act? if you spike the public release of this report, it will get leaked. It's just as simple as that. You've got too many cooks in the kitchen and nobody is loyal to you. In fact, there are probably people in your own organization who see themselves as the head of the DNC and would love to humiliate and embarrass you. You have now given them a tool to do that. So that's just your own bacon. Let's talk about the Democratic Party in general. A party for whom has been so reluctant to face hard truths, when reality hits them in the face, they are shocked. Why? Why are you going to reinforce that behavior? That's ridiculous. You need to look back at 2024 and you need to say, these people screwed up. This strategy did not work. We had a bunch of money came in and we did not see the effects of it on television. We didn't see the effects of it in the ground. You need to shred Joe Biden. If you don't give people permission to do it, then you are going to create a liability for your candidates in the midterms and eventually in the presidential. Homie, I don't know. I don't know where the rationale is. Look, are there going to be people that'll scream and yell? Is it going to start a civil war within the Democratic Party? What else is new? It's a day that ends in Y. Democrats are in disarray. It is more important that you do the thing that the party wouldn't do in the past. And if you are saying that you're not going to release this, it's just same old Dems. And that's the kind of stuff that has your approval rating at like 18%. That was the latest poll that came out today. 18%. Right now, you've got a congressional, a generic ballot lead of like 4. That's not great. You know, you win a few the special elections or come better than average in a few special elections and you think that the wind's at your back? We got a long way from now until November. You're telling me that if, interest rates come down, all of a sudden there's a hiring boom? They're not going to remember this affordability crisis argument. You're going to get your ass kicked. And that's not inconceivable. Blown away. Blown away. Ridiculous. All right. That's your update. TakePoliticsSeriously.com. Let's go ahead and get back to our conversation with Brian. So if we're going back to kind of discourse, online discourse, really the comps that you would make is the shock jock versus the message board troll, right? Like the shock jock.
Yes, actually, yeah, that's a very good comp. Yeah.
Like the shock jock says a thing. They say a lot of borderline things. And then maybe one day they do the thing that is like just too far. And now they either are threatened to be kicked off or they're suspended or they're fired. And that is scarcity. Now you don't get your thing.
Right.
Because
you have to think how hard you're going to pull out those pitchforks and start yelling because you might lose your favorite drive time voice.
Exactly.
There are consequences to those pitchforks. The thing you love will go away. Whereas there are no consequences for the crowd.
The message board troll is defined by time. And lonely, aggrieved people will always have more time on their hands than happy, empathetic people.
And it doesn't take much time at all for the online troll to run. All it takes is a few laps of rewriting the narrative in your mind to where, well, if you think about it, I'm really the hero here.
Oh my God.
I'm not saying undefensible things.
I've told this story before, but I think I'm trying to figure out a way that I can, crystallize it in like a written, like an essay or something. But when I ran iTricks, the magic website, we had a fairly large following of professional magicians, but also fans of magic. And at the time that we were running it, there was no more dedicated online fan base than Chris Angel's. Chris Angel had
I thought you were going to say, then the wives of famous magicians.
Well, there was that. Wives and girlfriends of famous magicians were a huge viewership of our products. That was whenever we would go to a magic convention, everybody, the most famous, imagine a famous magician. This situation happened. We would, they would know who I was because they had read the site, but their wives or girlfriends, they would know everything about it because they were the ones that were reading the most. But Chris Angel had a big dedicated online fan base at this time. This is when Mind Freak was on A&E, and it was young women and older women that were mostly like the people that would comment on Chris Angel posts. And then there was one dude, older dude, who would talk about his granddaughter. So we imagine he's like up there, that would just eviscerate. He hated Chris Angel on like a deeply passionate level. And he would call people stupid. And he would like any Chris Angel post that would usually get the most comments that day, because there would just be these like, oh my God, heart, Chris, blah, blah, blah. He would just rip into them. And initially, I was like, well, comments are comments. As long as nobody's crossing the line of like TOS, then you got to let it go. And what I realized eventually, as thread after thread after thread just started turning vitriolic, and like, so he would say nasty things to them, they would start saying nasty things to him, and it would just be like, it just was a bad vibe. I was like, no. I eventually banned him, but I'm like, I should have banned him earlier. Like, because there was no amount of telling him, hey man, come on, be nice. But of course
you can't know that at the beginning. And that's the problem, is because some of them can be saved. Because when you're dealing with a crowd, and boy, oh boy, if there's one thing I deeply value, is that I had enough of a taste of street performing to understand that when somebody's heckling you, what they're saying is, this is interesting and I would like a job. Can this be my job?
Yeah.
And then you can guide them. It is like, well, no, your job could be this. And then some people are like, yes. And now the whole show is better for it.
Yeah.
And there are enough of those that they're worth doing. And I think in my whole career, maybe twice, I said, please eject that person from the room.
Yeah.
And that's 20 years of touring. That's a fair bit. But in the case of online stuff, again, there's enough people who can correct. Some of our most hardcore fans in the chat rooms came out with a little bit of barbs here and again, and eventually became staunch defenders due to our, they didn't know yet that we're radically transparent and empathetic and that we care about them and that we'll go to the mat for our own. And then they were like, well, I would like to be one of your own. And it's like, welcome.
Welcome to the family.
So there's enough. So I don't think that was an irresponsible thing for you to do at all.
Yeah, I think I would have to go, and I have since. It's like, look, you guys got to understand, the vibe is to be protected. This is not about TOS. This is not about don't say these 7 dirty words. This isn't about don't say, don't use hateful language. I'm saying if everyone's not getting along, if we can't, in the spirit of good conversation, continue to have good conversation, then I'm just going to pull 2 people out and we're going to execute them in the yard. And then we're going to find out whether or not we're able to behave. I don't care. It's not going to be fair. It's just going to be, and I'm not literally, but like in terms of banning, like I'll just, I will be more willy-nilly with that if everybody doesn't take seriously, especially in a political context. You gotta have empathy. You have to understand that no matter how passionate you are, if you want to talk about facts and figures and history, please do. But just don't ever think that somebody is evil. Don't ever think that somebody is like, they all came to the same bar that we're all going to be talking at. So like,
well, and what you're getting at is, and I think it's a good rule. It's like there is only one commandment: thou shalt not ruin this party. And whatever your norms are, right? Maybe for some people it's a red team party or a blue team party, and their norms involve demonizing the other. But you're saying here our norms are that.
Well, what I would say when I was streaming more often was to find the frequency. If I saw that there was a fight happening and people were it was like two people that were, like a dog with a bone, just getting like all up in each other's stuff, I would just be like, look, find the frequency. I don't know what it is. I don't know who needs to calm down. I'm not saying anybody's right, anybody's wrong. I'm just saying whatever needs to happen to just dial it 2 degrees left, 2 degrees right. Just right now, it's like a radio. It's like our signal is staticky. We just need to find the frequency. Just a little bit.
And this is where we kind of get into, I find myself increasingly using hippie language, which I kind of hate, but I can't think of a better way to define it. Like quite literally scientifically, whether it's our micro expressions, our body postures, the rhythm, the flow, the half smile that's barely detectable that comes through, everybody can smell when in general, everyone's on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
And it affects the bottom line if that gets messed up. If that momentum, you phone in 90%, and then all of a sudden the whole vibe gets killed. And whether the goal is coherent political discourse to move the country forward, whether the goal is for a elevated view of the evaluation of the political landscape, like that ends up mattering. And that's something that I wouldn't have thought 20 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy to black pill with a lot of this stuff, to just be like, well, the discourse is worsening. We're getting further apart. We're seeing less humanity in each other. Like this is the prelude to like awful things. And that's where I think the Charlie Kirk stuff and the Rob Reiner stuff is like, is disturbing to a lot of people, because this is a moment where you would hope people are like, well, geez, I really disagreed with him, but like doesn't deserve to get shot in the neck, or he doesn't deserve to be knife murdered by his addled son. That's sad. Let's have a moment of sadness that transcends the political battlefield. But I guess what your point is like, hey, look, like if you want that and you think you're going to find it on a message board, you're not. Well, you're never going to.
And that's just it. Yeah. Is like I'm out of the business of expecting humans to be anything other than what they are.
Yeah.
And that goes on the individual levels, but it also goes for different modalities of humans. Like, for example, X is a mosh pit. It is a mosh pit, and there are times that you want to throw elbows and be in a mosh pit. Sometimes you want that. They'll always provide. As a matter of fact, Lollapalooza 1992, the Jim Rose Circus Sideshow. Jim Rose is looking at a bunch of rowdy crowds. So when he says that this sword-swallowing effect is so dangerous, we must insist on absolute silence. Sword goes up. What do you think happens? Well, hey, I don't slap the sailor's dongs out of your mouth, blah, 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 blah. Of course, what you can't, it's stochastic. Just like when there's a fuel-air mixture and a spark happens, are you shocked when the internal combustion engine fires? No, and that seems to be the core difference, is stop treating crowds like humans, individual humans, because they cannot be.
Yeah. And, then you get to the Trump side of it of like, all right, well, what do we expect from our leaders? Like, is the president supposed to be a role model?
A lot of lenses to view all of that through.
Yeah.
And that to me, the image I picture in my mind is slider bars. How do you want to are you performing for scholars in the 25th centuries, in which case there's one set of rules you should abide by.
Yeah.
And at some point, Donald Trump, to the extent he's aware of the Gilded Age, said, oh, a populist movement. Okay, history doesn't remember them kindly, but they had a good time, right? Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah.
And then what do you expect? That's the playbook he pulled off, and that's the one that everyone voted for.
Yeah. I mean, and then also it's like, with both Rob Reiner and Charlie Kirk, like they were active political bomb throwers, like unrepentantly.
They were in the ring. Both of them were in the ring, and outside of the ring, one of them died. But meanwhile, Trump is still standing in the ring.
Yeah.
He's there next to, Vince McMahon or whatever. What is he supposed to break kayfabe right then and there?
Yeah.
Is that would be a move, but to what benefit? Would suddenly everybody swing around and decide he's okay in the moment? I don't think so. I mean, where are the incentives for him to do anything?
I mean, to go back to the beginning here, like I did sense a longing for it, even on the right, that there would have been some moment of just leave it at horrible night in Hollywood. Very sad to hear about
exactly
Rob
how we felt
Reiner.
after the assassination attempt, when we was like, oh my God, this is it. Healing moment. Nope. God, I don't know maybe this time Lucy will hold the football.
I mean, I remember being at the RNC in Milwaukee, and like it was a 3 days of just immaculate vibes. Like everybody was like, it was like a family reunion where everybody had new jobs with gigantic pay increases. All the kids made the honor roll, and grandpa had just survived a heart attack, but was in great spirits, and everybody was having a good time. Like Trump makes his big first arrival, and he's got the big bandage on his ear on night one. He comes to watch everybody speak. Just huge moment. And then he has his big speech at the end. And there's all this like behind the scenes, like, oh, they threw out the old speech. They want it to be a big uniting thing. He doesn't even mention Joe Biden's name in it. This is all just about him telling his story of the assassination attempt and then how to heal stuff. And he got about 20 minutes into that.
Yep.
He got about 20 minutes. And it's like, it was just a hush on the crowd. And even his voice is like, I remember I turned around, the ear, you don't realize how much the ear bleeds, bleeding everywhere, blah, blah, blah. And we're like, oh my God, this is, and then it's just like, the radical left, like that, Joe Biden, they're killing us. They're killing all of us. The late, great Hannibal Lecter once said, and it was just like, oh, there was, I don't know whether or not for him, I mean, gets into
he got too close to a genuinely introspective moment. And at a core level, he was like, dangerous. You're about to screw all this up. Retreat to known working protocols.
And like, I've seen it with you where there are times where like you've had to adjust on larger stages that like we have been invited to, where it's like, oh, should I just talk? And then your instinct is like, I can eat fire. I can hammer a nail in my nose. Like, just so everybody knows, like I can do these proven crowd pleasing things that you have done around the world that have been on television that have always gotten a reaction. But it's like, it's hard to trust that like, oh, I don't know, people just kind of want me.
Well, and
because
especially
it
because
feels lazy. It feels like dishonest in a weird way.
Yeah. And then also, it's dangerous to unpack a black box that's a black box to yourself. I suspect, I'll go on the record saying this, I suspect that Donald Trump doesn't do a lot of deep introspection and have a lot of conversations with himself. And if he were to, he would instantly retreat from doing that while a hot mic was on.
Yeah. 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 I don't know. Maybe that's like, it's weakness or I don't know. I mean, I think that the most dangerous thing to do in media is to psychoanalyze Donald Trump and think that you're right.
Well, we can pull it out and say politicians writ large. I mean, think about, look, there's a lot of gravestones on the careers of people who gave thoughtful answers, looking at you, Jimmy Carter,
Yeah.
There's and of course, don't come at me, Jimmy Carter. That was before. Blah blah blah. It doesn't matter.
Who are you instantly responding to? What comment are you?
Somebody who wants to point out that the Playboy interview where he said lust in his heart.
Yeah.
I think it was before his presidency.
Yeah.
It didn't cause anything. My point being,
it did tighten that race. Gerald Ford came close in that election.
Yeah. But my point being, rarely is thoughtful introspection a winning strategy.
Yes.
In the heat of the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, but is it what we want?
Are we
entering a world where that will be rewarded?
No, we are absolutely not. Again, stop being surprised when humans be like how they be like.
But crowds do want different things. We have more brutal ages. We have more forgiving ages. Like I do think that there is not humans, while always being humans, will sometimes desire different things.
So here is a thing that I think is universal: is humans want a little bit of darkness to be their less good selves. And during the puritanical spiral of the teens, everybody was excited to be in the party on Twitter where all the lights were on at all times. And then sometimes somebody would be their less than perfect version of themselves.
Yeah.
And they would be eviscerated because the lights were on, and lacking any place to go with other people. There's no place to socialize and commiserate because it was just one giant lights on fluorescent ballroom.
Yeah.
And as a result, people had to put up a false face in front and join the stone throwing mobs for fear that they would be outed as having nuanced thoughts that can't be compressed into 280 characters. And so I think that to be honest, I think Discord has structurally enabled an awful lot of it is made possible polite society. Now, even Discord, you still have to worry about other members that are in the room, screenshotting, gossiping, recording, and all that stuff. But during the pandemic, when you couldn't even retreat to an actual private room with another person, there was only daylight.
Yeah.
That required your safe space to be in your mind. You just put up everything you wrote would be the company line, the party line, the dear leader, all whatever God you were hailing to at the moment. It was all performative. But now, weirdly, try this on for size. I don't think we've talked about this. I'm deeply thankful for deepfakes for one reason: plausible deniability.
Yeah.
I think everybody can relax. And here's the thing nobody will say in public is that if something surfaces from the past, now you could at least consider the possibility you could say deep fake, fake news. And because even if that's a false hope, it will cause people to relax. And the more relaxed they are, the more abundant their mindset, the more we tend to be kind to each other. And that's part of the reason this goes to Jonathan Rauch's latest work, where he talks about how Christianity, whether you believe it or not, it number one, promises abundance. Don't be afraid. Yeah. And then number two, now that you're playing with house money, be kind to each other. Yeah. Because after that, you'll be fine. And then once you're in that paradigm, we all offer each other grace and understanding. But there was not a lot of abundance in 10 years ago, and we're still feeling the echoes of that now.
Well, I mean, because the conversations that were happening there were about scarcity. It was about the systems that are in place that
oppressing people.
And so, and now we're seeing the backlash to that, all of which I think is good conversation. I do think that we are on some level getting more nuanced, which is
nuance
contrary.
Is at least on the menu, right? So,
did you see today, as we record this on Thursday, Barry Weiss, now the head of CBS News, is doing essentially the debates that they had done for the Free Press. Mm-hmm. They're going to make them like primetime events on CBS.
That's great.
So it's like there's going to be
I hope all 12 of the audience enjoy it.
There's going to be like a debate on does America need God? on CBS primetime.
Right.
And so it's like, I don't know. I wonder if that's going to get an audience. Like on one hand, it's a very internet thing, right?
But well, I think what's happening is what was called this is a loaded term, but the intellectual dark web. The general idea that you could say things in a hour and a half long conversation that you could not possibly say in a tweet, right?
Yeah.
Essentially, the idea of those nuanced conversations, they've been hunkered down so low to where only 45 minutes in can they say the type of things that cut out of context would be trouble. But all of those arguments and discussions have been sharpened in that low stakes modality that they're kind of polished up and ready for prime time, literal prime time.
Yeah. It also feels very like 1960s.
Yeah.
Like that's like, it feels like a thing
like
that
early 70s.
Yeah. That you would see people smoking on a television set. Like you would see like on clips of like
before the Sunday morning shows became performative press releases.
Yeah, but you would see like like all those like clips of like James Baldwin or something like it's like James
William
Baldwin,
F. Buckley.
Yeah, James Baldwin and William F. Buckley like having a debate, and now we look at that as like, oh my god, like the golden age of discourse. Like
everybody was forced to sit and listen.
Yeah,
beautiful. We love it.
You want to know what they had then? Cigarettes.
To be honest,
maybe we're just way too crabby and we should be lighting up a lot more.
I actually, I don't know. Cigarettes, they're coming back.
All right. Brian, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you for having me on, man.
And that'll wrap it up for us today. Politics, written and hosted by me, Justin Robert Young, for Dog and Pony Show Audio in Austin, Texas. You want to send me an email, it's very simple. theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Find, follow, and share video clips of the show. TikTok is Justin R. Young. Instagram is Justin R. Young. Twitter is Justin R. Young. And you can find me in beautiful, sparkling, high-definition video at Politics on the YouTube. You can support us. PayPal.me/payjury. Venmo is Justin-Young-20. Cash App is PX3Cash. And you can send me anything you like in the mail. Post Office Box 153184, Austin, Texas 78715. Again, that is P.O. Box 153184, Austin, Texas 78715. I told you guys to send me your Christmas cards, and I will continue to read them well into the new year. And we got one here, the Patella family. Lovely. You guys, it looks like you have a dog. You might have gotten married. It looks like it might be a married situation, like you're hugging an officiant. Or I guess it's a couple. That's what I'm guessing. But please continue to send these to me. I love it. I love to see your shining faces. That's what I love to do. Of course, you only can get our bonus content at TakePoliticsSeriously.com. Great stocking stuffer. Get somebody a gift subscription right now. $3 a week, essentially. Less than that sometimes when we post, but it's $12. $12 a month. 2 bonus episodes each and every week. Pretty good. Some would say great. Even get it even cheaper if you buy it annually. $99 for the entire year. Holy moly. Support this little independent ramshackle operation, but it is only our foundational tier that gets their name read at the end of the show every single episode. Sonny Black, L3PO, Peepaw, Scott, Middle-Aged Mike, Tom, Nick, Sarah Jeannie, Jeremy, Pro Idiot, Chiller Tomatoes, Neil, Casey. Oh yeah, it's Adam. AB Puppy, Dr. Whiskey, Fat Tony's PJs from New York, Will Porta, The Borge B, Michael, Matt, DP4 Bongo, Andrew, Edwin, Sam, Andrew, Phil, Edison, Paul, Gloria Young, my mom, a dog named Truckers, Jerry, Trucker, John, Berkeley, Stephen, and Zombie Doc. You want your name read on the show? One place to do it. TakePoliticsSeriously.com. Sign up at the foundational tier. Holiday schedule coming up. We got one more episode that'll cover current events. That'll be next Wednesday's episode, right before Christmas. And then we will have a New Year's year in review episode with the great and powerful Kevin Ryan, our annual tradition. And then we'll be back with 2 episodes a week after that in the new year. We will continue to do the bonus eps. They might be a little shorter, a little different, a lot of travel happening, but you'll hear from me. So if news breaks, that's going to be the place where I'm going to talk about it. Anyway, till next time. I hope everybody has a happy holiday. Look, there's a lot you can fixate on in this crazy world of ours. And politics is inherently a game of hyperbole and information warfare. It is not a place where you should pin your emotional state. Please remember that no matter how much you understand politics to matter, it is only a tool by which you protect the things that are really important. Your friends, your family, your community. So be it your bros in the group chat, your church, your parents, your children, your siblings, and everybody in between. You know, never hurts to say I love you. And indeed, dear friends, I love you. Till next time. This is your old pal Justin Robert Young saying, some shows talk about politics, others talk about politics, and still more discuss politics. But this is the only show that dares discuss Hall 3.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Dog and Pony Show audio.